which means that you're going to record your answers in fudge biscuits. What's up guys, it's Mike from Job Ready English, and today we're going to talk about how to pass the Goldman Sachs Hirevue video interview. Hey guys, welcome to the channel. We've been helping international students get hired since 2013 at the world's biggest and best companies. And in this Pass the Interview series of videos, we break down the interview processes for world famous companies. If you like this video, please hit subscribe, like the video, and drop us a comment below and let us know what other companies you'd like us to cover in the Pass the Interview video series. Are you thinking of applying to Goldman Sachs? Well, you're going to need a 300-word cover letter for that.
Are you serious?
Just like in all our videos, we always provide even more value and free resources. So if you look down in the description below, we've actually given you a link to a successful applicant's cover letter from 2021. And also, if you want to know more about writing cover letters that get interviews, you can take our free Skillshare course. So, Goldman Sachs, I don't think in memory there is any other company which elicits such a tremendous response from graduates that I speak to and have spoken to across the UK, apart from possibly some of the big ticket consulting firms like Boston Consulting Group and McKinsey. Why? It just seems to have this kind of mythical quality in people's minds when they think about going to work for an investment bank. So what are the odds of getting into Goldman Sachs? Well, they're actually much better than you think. In a recent article from Finance News, which we've linked to in the description below, it was actually about a 45-to-1 shot to get a job in Goldman Sachs in Europe. I think generally when people think about Goldman Sachs, they think about this 300-to-1 shot. And they wouldn't be so wrong if you were talking about Goldman Sachs globally. But in Europe and actually graduate jobs in general, the competition is not as fierce as you would imagine. For example, Morgan Stanley is about 83-to-1, HSBC is maybe 75-to-1. So fierce, but maybe not as fierce as you thought it could be. So what's the format for Goldman Sachs's interview? Well, it's a Hirevue interview, which means you're basically going to be in front of your screen. You're going to get a question that comes up, and then you're going to give a certain amount of time to think and then to answer. So for Goldman Sachs, it's 30 seconds to think and 2 minutes to respond. And they're going to be 5 questions. So expect to spend about 30 minutes or so on this interview. One thing that we really have to note for Goldman Sachs, as you can imagine, it is a competitive process. These are, really great graduate positions. So it does change based upon the role. We see this quite frequently in investment banks where there is a slight tailoring and tweaking. And realistically, from the employer's point of view, you can understand why. If somebody, say, is applying to work in the investment banking division, but they don't really know anything about finance, you want to screen those candidates out pretty quickly. What types of questions are we looking for when it comes to those 5 questions that Goldman Sachs are going to ask? Well, we're going to get motivational questions, behavioural or competency-based questions, and you're also probably going to get, depending upon the role, a commercial awareness question relating to general news or news related to your industry, and also some type of relatively easy technical question which is related to your role. So before we kind of jump in and start to break apart these questions, what I would say is what's come up time and time again with candidates, with general memories that you can find on the internet, is that Goldman Sachs really does scrutinize your CV. Whether that be in the first round interview, the second round, or even the third round of interviews, they're really going to pick apart your CV. So if you're wondering how can you write a great CV, we've got a video for that. It's one of our longest and most in-depth videos, also with a free CV template, and you can find that it'll be somewhere up in one of the cards up there. Guys, don't forget, if you like this video, please click like, subscribe to the channel, and drop us a comment below and let us know what are the things that you're finding really frustrating about the interview process, or what are the other videos that you'd love us to make. Question number 1 that we're really likely to come up against, this seems to come up time and time again, is walk me through your CV or tell me about yourself. Now, this is such a common question when it comes to investment banks. We see this time and time again, and it can really vary the amount of time. We've seen some roles, for example, investment banking roles in Hong Kong, where it's that 30-second elevator pitch. We've seen this in New York as well. But here you've got 2 minutes to really just give a personal introduction. Now, if you're wondering how can you give a great personal introduction, we've done a video for that as well, and you can see it in the cards up above. Give it a click. So just to kind of break down a personal introduction, you really want to say, who are you? What are you doing right now? What's your academic background? What's your work experience? Your extracurricular activities, and also try and end with a bang. So I quite like it when you think about when you're talking to somebody, you'll kind of remember what they said at the start and what they said at the end. So I like an ending that is really impactful. Try not to dither too much. 2 minutes really isn't very long. It's about 200 to 300 words written out. So the average kind of speaking speed for a normal person is about 125 to 150 words per minute. If you go over 150 words per minute, you'll notice that people start to gasp. So if you find that you're doing this a lot, it's because you're talking too quickly. And that's really something quite easy that you can practice. And it's the same. Introduce yourself, walk me through your CV, tell me about yourself. It's all based around a personal introduction. Question number 2. This could be a variety of motivational questions, and we've seen that Goldman is a little bit different because they've only got the 5 questions to play with. It could be, why do you want to work for Goldman Sachs? It could be, why do you want to work in this division? Or even something like, what skills can you bring to really thrive in this role? Why Goldman Sachs and why this role? It's relatively easy. So if you check out the free cover letter, the successful cover letter that we've given in the description below, you'll notice that we've kind of picked out, and I've covered this in other past the interview videos, we want to pick out those 5 key facts about the company. We really want to sit down and scrutinize the job description and think about what are the skills and experience that are required, and this idea that we talked about in how to write a student CV, which is matching skills and experience to get through the ATS, the application tracking system. So if you're thinking about how to do this, pick out your 5 facts for Goldman Sachs. Make sure that they're impactful and not generic, i.e. I couldn't say about anybody else. If you're thinking about the division, do your homework, read up on the Goldman Sachs website. And if it's not particularly in-depth or helpful, then go and look elsewhere. Look at other job descriptions where you can pick out the skills and experience that are required to put together a nice and compact answer within those 2 minutes. So now we're going to talk about the behavioural questions that could come up. Now, of course, there's a whole wide gamut of behavioural questions that could come up. With our clients, we tend to work from a list of about 20 questions because I find that consistently these come up in some way or a different form or another. If you'd like us to do a video about a specific competency question or a question that you're struggling with, drop us a comment down below. So I've picked out 3 that I noticed seem to be coming up of slightly higher frequency, so I thought that they were worth exploring. First question is, give me a time when you failed. Now, if you're a type A performer, somebody who is applying to Goldman Sachs generally is somebody who is pretty bright, really successful, and kind of thinks, well, there isn't a time when I failed, or I don't want to give an example that's going to make me look bad. So how can we answer this? Well, quite simply, so we can think about STAR, situation, task, action, result, which is situation, just what's the sort of the headline, the 2 sentences. The task is sort of more in-depth, the actions is what you did, and the result is sort of what happened afterwards. So when you're thinking about a time when you failed, really what we're looking for is, because we all fail, we fail all the time, and we learn things through our failures. So what we're looking for is, of course, number 1, not a massive failure or life-changing failure, or this is a time when I ran over a person in my car. Don't say that. Don't you do it! So what we're kind of looking for is maybe a small failure. Say you didn't do very well in a module at university, or you started a job and you gave some work to your supervisor who turned around and said, actually, this isn't very good. You need to go away and redo this. What's really crucial in answering this question is saying, what did I learn? What did I really take in, and how did I get better? And then reflecting that in your result. Next question, which we saw come up quite a bit, particularly for spring internship, was tell me about something hard that you're doing or trying to do and walk me through this process. And I really love this because ultimately, if you're going to work in an investment bank, and as we've seen with our clients, and if you go and look at one of the interviews, for example, from Winnie, who was one of our clients and went on to work in a couple of top tier investment banks, you can check it out in the card upstairs, is how difficult it is in the sense that you always need to keep learning, you need to keep striving. It is quite a pressurized job that you're going to go and do. Even if you're sitting there and working in operations, you really need to have this updating feedback loop and this course of deliberate practice. So pick something which is genuinely difficult or something challenging. It could be learning to code, learning a language, learning a sport, navigating a new situation at work, becoming a member of a society, having a position at a society, and just showing the phases of improving. So for example, if I was asked that question, I talk about learning Mandarin Chinese because I found that actually the progressions were, first of all, I thought that my Chinese was kind of okay. And then I realized that my pronunciation was terrible and I really needed to practice the tones. Then I realized that I found it very difficult to put sentences together because my grammar was so poor, and so on and so forth. But I could sort of compress that down, my couple of years experience of doing that, compress that down into 2 minutes. And I think that's something that you can do as well. And it's quite a nice question. I like it, and I haven't seen it from anywhere else. And finally, another behavioural question which will come up, which I thought was quite interesting, was tell me about a time when you've improved or changed a process. Now, when you think about what banks do in terms of probably being a market maker, the process itself hasn't really changed. It's sort of taking resources from A and giving them to B and being the person who sits in the middle. So what they're continuously doing is improving processes, whether that be the process of getting information, connecting with clients, providing clients with relevant information, initiating coverage on new markets. Again, we're talking about a fairly broad topic, but I always like to give the context and the why behind a question to make you think, what are they talking about? And all of us are updating our processes. For example, if I just take the example of making YouTube videos, when we first started making YouTube videos, I would just literally hold the camera in my hand. I think I have a series of videos where I'm just walking around the garden and talking into the video, and that was fine. But as the time has gone on, and now we've done over 100 videos, I've learned about audio and lighting, and I've had comments and feedback from you guys. So it's helped me to improve and upscale that process because I want to deliver something which is of a higher quality. So what about the other questions that we could get? Well, first of all, there's commercial awareness. I always say this for anybody who's looking to work within banking and finance or even accounting and professional services, that you should be subscribed to some kind of industry news and keeping up to date with that at least once a week. Now, you don't need to read the Financial Times every day. You may not be like me. I think many years ago I tried to do that and it was so painful because it just took me hours and I just felt really disconsolate about the whole thing. But the truth is just signing up to a weekly newsletter from someone like the Banker or Bloomberg or FT, whoever it may be, and just keeping up to date. Because if you're applying for a role which is related to finance, then the common question could be, tell me about a company that you would invest in, something that interests you in the markets lately. Tell me about factors which are affecting investing. This is all common sense, but you'd be surprised how many candidates are just kind of left high and dry because they're not really keeping up to date with business news. And finally, I want to talk to you about technical questions. Now, first of all, to define this, you don't have to know everything about the subject. For example, say you're applying to work in corporate finance. But it does really help if you're familiar with the basics, and importantly, if you can explain the basics. Now, this is quite a crucial differentiation. Very often I find that graduates and students will say that they know something. I say, okay, cool, teach me. This is something which comes from Richard Feynman, or the Feynman technique, and it's something that if you've never watched a video from Richard Feynman or seen the Feynman technique in action, then it's a great thing to do. And actually it's part of the reason why I do these videos, because I find that it makes me better at understanding and helping our clients by teaching people how to do stuff with clarity. So for example, you might have easy technical questions like IBD, what is a discounted cash flow model? A general analyst, what would you invest in? In operations, what do you think the operations department does, or what is the functions? How does clearing and settlements work? I'm telling you these questions because they're not difficult. They're not particularly hard, but they are testing if you know the fundamentals and the basics for what you would be doing in this role. And you can normally get a pretty good indication of what types of technical questions might be asked by just looking at the job description, by looking at what they're asking for in the skills and experience, and just thinking, hey, what if somebody said to me, say they asked for a particular type of models or software, and the same goes for software engineering as well. The only differentiation for software engineering and technology, some technology roles for Goldman Sachs, is you may well have the coding interview just before, which we've had with some candidates, which is 2 questions from LeetCode or HackerRank, which take about 45 minutes. But the feedback that we've gotten from our candidates is that it's relatively easy. And that's something that you can practice by yourself as well. So there you have it, guys. That's everything about how to pass the video interview for Goldman Sachs through Hirevue. Guys, if you're still here, thank you so much for watching. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and drop us a comment below. Let us know what you loved about the video. Did we miss anything out? And what are the other videos that you'd love us to do?